Up next on an all-new Arcade Pickers.
So, I was hanging out and got a text message from Derek from our Double Gorfed episode. He had a trailer full of games, and right away I noticed in the corner a Konami Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1989 cabinet. Now, it's going to be a little hard to track down all the parts on this thing. It's missing a CRT. It's also missing the joysticks and buttons. It also needs all new artwork. So, and I got the artwork back. It looks fantastic. It's on vinyl print. I'm Corey Masal, and this is our home arcade. I've been playing games for over 30 years, and my son Jacob, he's been playing games for the last 10 years. We've searched all over for some of the rarest arcade cabinets you can find, but we still have yet to find the Holy Grail.
Attention, Narc 1.
Oh no, the knife, man!
511 in progress.
Let's go!
Narc, made by Williams Arcade Cabinet. One of my favorite games of all time. My son Jacob is searching for a PlayStation 5. Join us as we hit the highways to find people's garages and home collections to search for what we've been looking for. This is Arcade Pickers. So, I was hanging out and got a text message from Derek from our Double Gorfed episode, who's got tons of arcade machines. He had a trailer full of games, and right away I noticed in the corner a Konami Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1989 cabinet. Now, when I got over to take a look at it, this thing had a lot of damage to it. It had gouges in the bottom. Somebody had converted it to an NFL Blitz, so on one side it has the Blitz artwork. On the other side, it had some Ninja Turtle artwork that had been stuck over and was missing a lot. So right away I said, Derek, I gotta have this cabinet. So Derek, being the cool guy he was, immediately brought it over and let us get started on it.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the arcade game was released in Japan as TMNT Super Kami Ninja, and also in Europe as Teenage Mutant Hero Ninjas, since they viewed the word ninja as being too violent for youth. This is a 1989 beat-em-up arcade released by Konami. It is based on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise and cartoon, including the animated series that began 2 years earlier in 1987. You control 4 players, taking on Shredder and Krang, also the Foot Clan, through various levels. This was released during a high point in popularity for the Turtles franchise, and the arcade game was a worldwide hit, becoming the highest grossing dedicated arcade game of 1990 in the United States, Konami's highest grossing arcade game of all time. It was soon ported to home consoles as well. The arcade game was definitely a blockbuster hit, especially in North America. Konami was unable to keep up with the high demand, so they outsourced additional US production to Dynamo Core. The release of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film in 1990 gave the arcade game a further boost in earnings, and by early April in 1990, Konami had sold over 20,000 arcade cabinets, internationally outside of Japan, and including over 14,000 cabinets sold in the United States, where it became the highest selling arcade game since Double Dragon in 1987. By early May 1990, the game had sold 25,000 arcade cabinets in America and Europe, with more units still in production to meet the continued demand at that time. We'll be right back with more Arcade Pickers.
Now, this is one of my all-time favorite arcade games. I remember being a kid and going into the arcade and seeing this thing front and center at the local shopping mall up in Seattle, Washington. Now, this thing always had a crowd of people dropping quarters in. It had people waiting to play, so I can't wait to get this thing back to its original glory. Now it's going to be a little hard to track down all the parts on this thing. It's missing a CRT. It's also missing the joysticks and buttons. It also needs all new artwork, but fortunately I do have the marquee from David. When we did the episode Lost in Tucson, I picked one up and it is the original TMNT marquee to put in the top, so that's a good start. But the first thing we're going to have to do is go ahead and rip off all this old artwork. So I'm going to use a heat gun and heat this up, and I'm going to start peeling it off.
All right, guys, so the first thing I got to do is remove this old cracked plexiglass, and you can see this stuff is really, really stuck on here. In fact, there was an X-Men and an NFL Blitz layer of graphics below. So I'm going to use my heat gun that I got at Harbor Freight, and we're going to just take our time right here, and we're going to heat this up a little bit at a time, and when it cracks off, we're going to have to just start with a new peel. Now guys, I can't stress enough, just be patient. This is a time elapse of probably about 20 minutes that it took me to get this off here, but you just peel a little bit at a time and get it off there, and your hands are going to be incredibly sticky. I tried to wear gloves, but it just got sticky on the gloves, so it didn't work, so I just went for it and then used some rubbing alcohol to wipe the stick off my hands. Then you're going to go ahead and sand off the rest of the goop. You are going to go through quite a bit of sandpaper to get this goop off here. Now on the side art on some of this, guys, I just couldn't get the artwork all the way off, so I decided to just go ahead and use a really, really low grit to a medium grit to a high grit sandpaper to get this thing as smooth as possible. Then I'm going to use some Bondo to fill in the extra holes and fix some of the corners that were gouged out, and I'm just going to continue to sand this down to get it as smooth as possible in preparation to put on the new artwork. So just take your time and get that down as smooth as possible. Then you're going to be ready to put some black gloss paint on there, which I picked up at Home Depot for about $10. I'm just going to roll it onto the entire control panel. Then I'm going to go ahead and roll it onto the entire cabinet so we have a nice clean black slate to put the artwork on. And guys, I think this looks fantastic, so we're moving right along here.
So right by our shop here in Arizona, there is a place called Alpha Graphics. I was lucky enough to go to arcadepunks.com and find the original artwork all set to scale. So I threw it on a flash drive and brought it down to Alpha Graphics, and they're printing it all off for me. So I'm hoping it turns out really good.
All right, guys, so you want to make sure you put about 3 or 4 coats of that black paint on there just to cover up any blemishes and give you a nice clean black surface to put your artwork on. So I've got this entire cabinet painted and I'm ready to start. Now with vinyl graphics, guys, you just want to take your time, and what you do is I use Loctite spray adhesive just to add a little bit of extra stick, even though the back of the vinyl's sticky, and you just ease it on a little bit at a time. It doesn't really bubble a whole lot because it's pretty thick vinyl, and then when you're done, you're just going to go around and you're going to cut off the extra and run your long razor blade along the wood trim to cut it off nice and clean. So the control panel was pretty easy because it wasn't that big of a piece of vinyl. It's going to be a little bit more intricate with the cabinet. So you can see it went on nice and smooth on the control panel, and everything looks fantastic. I even cut out the insides of the holes so that we've got our place to put our buttons inside. Here's that Loctite spray adhesive that I used. It was about $5 at Walmart. Now onto the side art. This was a little bit more intricate. What I decided to do was go ahead and line up the back edge of the cabinet with the edge of the vinyl. So I cut off the excess white print. Then I went ahead and taped that down just to make sure it lined up exactly so it wouldn't slide as I was cutting. Then I'm going to start on the top half right here, and I'm going to spray it with the adhesive. Then I'm just going to run my hand along it and I'm going to slide it right on. So here's a better angle. You can see I'm going to hold up the top of the artwork and just kind of slide it on with the surface of the cabinet already pre-sprayed with Loctite. So we're just going to run our hand on there, make sure there's no bubbles or creases or wrinkles. And we're going to get that on nice and smooth. Then we're going to go around the edges and trim off the excess around the whole border of the cabinet with a razor blade. And guys, when this is done, it looks fantastic. You can see the side art is all on there. It looks brand new. I even added the arrows under the coin doors. So this looks great. We'll be right back with more Arcade Pickers.
So we got our shipment in from tmolding.com. I highly recommend these guys. They had the Sanwa joysticks in all 4 colors of the turtles, and also the buttons with the cherry switches that I needed for all 4 colors of the turtles as well. I was also lucky enough to score a CRT monitor from Derek, courtesy of Mark's Arcades in Gilbert, Arizona, so special thanks to those guys. Now I am going to have Flynn come over from episode 1 of Arcade Pickers. He's going to give me a hand in fine-tuning the CRT and getting it mounted and hooked up correctly inside the arcade cabinet.
So we got our order in from tmolding.com with not only our buttons and joysticks, but also our green T-molding. So I went ahead and ripped off all the old T-molding, and I like to use a rubber mallet and just kind of put this back in where it was and lightly pound on it. Now you don't want to hit it too hard or you can actually dent the T-molding. So I'm just going to use nice, easy little taps and use a time lapse here to show you guys how easy this goes on. I'm going to go ahead and hit it up on the cabinet as well now. Now the original TMNT had black trim, but I did see some that had the green trim and thought it looked really nice and made it pop. So I went ahead and went with the green trim. And I'm going to go ahead and go around both sides of this and just tap it down lightly to get that stuff nice and good on there. And it doesn't need to be glued or adhesive or anything. It'll just stay in there when you have it on the grooves. So here's a nice look at what that T-molding looks like after I get it all installed. So it looks good to me.
All right, so you can see we've got our buttons and joysticks going in here, and I got to thank Flynn. He has a lot of knowledge of arcade cabinets. He's been running an arcade route since the early 80s, so he came over and gave me a hand on hooking this stuff up. Now, I was able to score an original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game board from Flynn, and he gave me a really good deal on it, so I'm really thankful to him. So thank you, Flynn. We now have an original game board inside, and we're going to hook this up to a JAMA harness, and we're going to wire this up inside of the cabinet and hook up all of our players. Now this hooks up pretty interesting. On the main JAMA board, you've got players 1 and players 2, but also player 3 and 4 hook up separately on a separate part of the board. So that's important to know in case you ever want to switch this out and put an X-Men or a Simpsons board inside. You can actually play it on the same cabinet. You just have to know how to switch things up. Then we're going to hook up the speakers, or the speaker I should say, since this is a mono stereo game, it only has one speaker. And then we're going to hook up the monitor and get this thing all up and running. So let's get to it.
Alright, so in this brand new segment of our show on Arcade Pickers, we're going to take you into today's brand new arcades out there in the wild and take a look at some of the cabinets that are newer instead of older. Now this one is Injustice, and this one is down at our local mall. I had to show you guys this because this is an awesome game. This is utilizing the DC Justice League universe. And you guys know this is based on the mobile game, and they also have a port to console, but this one pits Batman against Wonder Woman, against Joker, against Deathstroke. It's got dozens of DC's favorites, and actually on the arcade game you can get a free card every time you play. And there's a unique scanning system that will let you scan your cards to use the obscure and hard to find characters. Now the cabinet looks fantastic. It's got what looks like about a 40-something inch monitor on there with a huge light up marquee, and it's got the topper on there. And the nice thing is with this game, you guys, is it's exactly like the mobile app, which you can use an emulator called BlueStacks. If you ever want to put this on an arcade cabinet, BlueStacks will allow you to download the games and play them right on the arcade and emulate them to joysticks and buttons. But you can see the nice oversized buttons. It actually has team cards that you can get as well if you want to add all 3 players instead of 1 for your team. But just a fantastic game, and usually when I see this game in the wild, you can see right next to it, it'll have this huge 5 or 6 foot stand that shows you the literally hundreds of characters that you can choose from above and beyond just the ones that give you the option right from the start of the game. So wanted to show you guys Injustice. It's a fantastic game. They also have one that just came out called Marvel Contest of Champions. I saw that one in Dave & Buster's, but this Injustice game is fantastic. So if you ever get a chance to get out and check it out, get your cards stocked up and kick some butt with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, or even some of the bad guys. But let's get back and finish up this Ninja Turtles cabinet. We'll be right back with more Arcade Pickers.
All right, guys, so this thing came out totally awesome, totally tubular, cowabunga, dude. You have to see this thing in action. It's all original. It's got everything that the original cabinet would have had, down to the artwork, the CRT, the speaker, the sound, the T-molding, the controllers. The only thing I changed from the original is I put the bat top controllers on there instead of the ball top, which I think gives you a lot more control, especially in a beat 'em up game. But I'm gonna let you guys take a look at this cabinet because it is outstanding.
All right, guys, so here it is, the 1989 Konami Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cabinet, ready to go and complete. Here's a good look at the marquee with the original UV lighting, the CRT monitor, which has bright, vibrant colors. I got quarters on hand, ready to go, and you guys can see the Sanwa bat top joysticks I did, and the artwork on the side looks fantastic. Guys, this turned out great. I am not even sure I want to sell this one. This is one of my favorite games from my childhood, from playing this when I was in about 7th grade at the mall, and I saw it in the front of the arcade. But guys, everything's back to normal. You can see I put new locks, new arrows on the coin doors, and here's a little bit of look at some gameplay. You guys can see that the colors, like I said, are very bright and vibrant and look fantastic. And guys, playing this game just brings me back down memory lane. I mean, everyone remembers playing this in the arcade, and then the ports came out on Nintendo, and it just wasn't the same. It didn't have that same cartoon feel, even though you could play the game. And this game is set up original to where you drop the quarters in, and guys, I think I'm going to leave it with the quarters like that. That way, maybe next year around this time, I'll have a few $100 in there in quarters from playing it. But this was such a fun restoration project, and I want to give a special thanks to Flynn and also Derek, especially for all he did, and also Mark's Arcades for coming through with the monitor for Derek to give to me. And guys, just make sure you subscribe to the channel because I have a super project coming up here right around Christmas time that you won't want to miss. Thanks again for watching Arcade Pickers, and I'm out of here.
Is he talking about just the music here in New York City? Is that it?
No, he's taking away all the music in the world, all of it.
All the music?
Yeah.
All the music. Read his lips.
With the possible exception of the Barry Manilow catalog, dude.
Oh, I see. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
you know, like
so-
Mandy, maybe, you know, because she came and gave without taking. I don't know.